Hello, myself Sunil Ramakrishna. Here, basically, we are discussing about the city creation. In city creation, basically, we are discussing accounts creation. That is of India account. And if anybody say that basically this is here about India, basically, why basically we should watch basically, then basically you can replace India with any of the country basically. So one of the person told that this basically video is for India basically. Why basically we should watch here basically? Then for that basically this is actually you can replace just India name with any of the country and the culture basically with other culture basically. So just replace the culture, everything basically, whatever things basically. But here basically I had never used the culture, I have never used the this. Only I have used the India account basically. And the rules and regulation and whatever the things basically has happened basically. In 1983 World Cup basically, that was won by India basically. 2011 World Cup basically, that was won by India basically. That only basically I have discussed. Nothing else basically. And CA rules basically. Citizens rules basically. That basically is done in India only basically. First they had done everything and then basically they are telling that basically we are implementing it. So in 1983 only basically the CA rules basically started implementation. Practically everything. So one of the person told that everything basically practically is done. That means court, Supreme Court basically, if they say that basically this rules is going to apply, that means it's going to apply. Why? Because practically everything is done basically. Practically everything basically they have done. So if practically everything they have done, that means the things basically is 100% going to apply. So one of the person told that there is might be account of Supreme Court, there might be account of high courts of any all the cities. Then one of the person told that yeah, exactly basically the Supreme Court account data basically might be there in India. So from there basically you can find basically which all are the rules and regulation basically practically ongoing and what are the expenses basically done to win basically 1983 World Cup basically to finish 1 crore family basically. It might not be finished also, it can be shifting also basically because anything basically is possible, but we basically don't know that basically. But this is 100% sure basically this has happened. So one of the person told that if you want to find basically that data basically, because this type of thing, this video basically is basically especially for the businessmen basically who are basically into the business basically, because they literally watch basically what Supreme Court is going to say basically, what would be their application basically. Application means applicable basically. What would be the result basically of each and every case basically which is on way. CA basically was one case basically. Citizenship basically. Citizenship Act basically, whatever basically. And that was going on since 1983 basically. So one of the person told that Supreme Court basically give directly the decisions, but Supreme Court basically might be giving the it because to implement the CA basically practically crores of rupees basically might have not spent basically. Crores means lots of rupees basically might have spent basically. It might possible that more than 1 lakh crore rupees basically might have spent. More than 1 lakh crore. 1 lakh crore basically it's a 1 0 0 3 times more zero, then basically 7 times 0. So 1 lakh crore. That much amount basically minimum they might have spent basically. Minimum is Indian group basically. The government group basically, which are basically placed by the set of Rajasahi family. That are the Maharaja families basically. They have done basically there to do their task basically. So one of the person told that if businessmen basically want to know this type of data, then but businessmen basically can't access the data na basically, because if you are For example, I will take one example. For example, somebody want to know basically what is the bank balance. I have basically account in Bank of Maharashtra. I want to know. Somebody basically want to know Bank of Maharashtra, many way the other banks basically, but money basically too much not there. So account is there basically, whatever basically in any bank basically, assume that basically anybody is accessing my account. So immediately basically the log gets generates. It's not like that, like bank basically generates immediately log. Who basically logged in, who basically checked the description, who checked the debit amount, who checked the credit amount, who checked that basically from where the money is coming. According to that basically he might take the decisions, might some decision also basically he might take. So that everything basically the bank software creation group basically, the company like TCS, the company like Infosys, they basically literally, if one person has pressed enter basically, that also they basically can captures basically. So you can just imagine basically, because it's very dangerous thing basically. Banks data are basically very dangerous. Banks data are very dangerous. So one of the person told that each and every transaction basically happens basically, that happens through India bank account only. But that is very difficult to track, yeah, basically, because there are n number of transactions basically it is ongoing basically. How you can track it basically? So one of the person told that if you can segregate the category, if you can categorize the transaction basically, that only basically the certain level group basically can do basically, who have the basically expertise categorizing the transaction basically. If these transactions basically you want to search, you have to go to this category basically, but that is very difficult basically, and that basically, because now basically you can't implement basically. Why? Because the India account is already created. If you want to do, then basically it's a huge process basically, and a huge expense also basically might be there. Because here normal chartered accountant people also basically can't work. The people who are chartered accountant, in accounts basically the chartered accountant degree is the most highest degree. They also basically can't work here. Why? Because their brain will not support. Why? Because when they have taken the chartered accountant degree, when they have read whatever thing, 18 books basically, I don't know exactly which how many books, I assume that basically it's 18 books. If they have reread the 18 books, and when basically they reread the 18 books, the highest basically person basically who got till now the percentage, that was 95 percentage from 100. So his brain also basically can't work in this data. Why? Because his brain basically is created up to that level basically. But if CA group basically modifies the certification or syllabus from 18, if they do some changes, then basically that is possible basically, because they are also capable basically. Same way with this basically, this connects to one more topic basically, because this everything basically data are there in the India account basically. This type of account basically businessman basically requires basically. Businessman basically wants to take the future decisions basically. The big businessman basically, who basically keeps on watching the government decisions basically. But nobody will allow basically. Why? There are secret policies basically. If you will know everything basically, then basically what is the meaning basically? You will do the advanced plan basically. There are many big companies basically, they know the everything basically, because the plans basically are created by whom basically? Human only creates the plan basically. Human only basically creates the plan. Who is the economist? For example, some big economist plan basically was launched, so the businessman basically know that basically, yeah, this basically might have done by this person only. Why? Because they know that basically how many economists basically are there in this world basically, and what he can do, what that they can do, what she can do, that everything basically businessmen know basically. So this is exactly same thing basically. And here basically connects to one more topic basically. For example, there is one person basically who basically has done the MBA finance. As if that basically one big institute or basically big college basically told that basically we have launched just first time basically the MBA finance. So not first time basically, as in that basically they have launched the MBA finance. One of the bank basically want to recruit the people basically. They want to recruit the people. They basically saw that basically this many percentage and they have got. They basically checked the blood data also. They checked the body structure data. Everything basically they checked, and they told that basically yes, basically this person basically really got the 95%. So to that level basically nowadays the checking happens. After that basically they say that yes, this is a 95%. So his blood cells basically might have generated like this. So we want to divert that blood cells to that type, that side basically. So according to that basically the projects are ready basically. According to that basically the projects are ready. Few people says that basically according to the future projects basically the syllabus of the education are designed basically, because ultimately education sector basically are going to do what basically, going to do in the set of created project basically, set of created project basically. So it's a very dangerous thing basically. Just now I told actually the thing is the projects which are going to create basically, that is already fixed that this is the project basically which is going to create. And who is going to create? The MBA group basically, whatever basically group. So their syllabus are designed according to that projects basically. And few area basically, few functional basically, few functional side basically, then according to the education the projects are designed. And they basically designs the project. Real time and education both are basically different basically. So one of the person told that yes, here basically the education sector basically is connected like this basically. So banks basically checks up to this level. So these all accounts basically also exist in the, because when the MBA degree was created, that time basically the doctor certification also was attached into that bank account. Doctor's account also basically was attached into the, because ultimately how many MBAs are there basically, you can calculate basically from how basically from that India account only basically. India account, as in that basically in the this particular year basically around 1 lakh MBA people basically created, and that MBA people basically might be having in many accounts basically. It might be having, they might be having in this account, this bank, that bank. That's basically their choice basically. According to their choice basically they decides the bank basically. It's not like that basically if he is a MBA, then basically he is only basically going to get account in this. That type of basically you can't create the rules basically. But in America basically that type of thing basically are there basically. They only allocates the bank basically. Some in some basically I in some education sector basically, if that person basically has cleared the this degree basically, he basically have to take account in this bank only basically. That is very dangerous. That is good also and that is bad also basically, because every side basically, everything basically whatever you do, bad is also there and good is also there. But which is higher there basically, according to that only basically you have to implement the rules basically. CAA rules basically which was implemented. Why? Because 1 lakh crore rupees already was spent here basically, and practically everything basically was done. Now basically what you are going to do? Tell. You have to implement the rule. If you will not say that basically this rule is not implemented, then also people has already say, placed basically. People already has placed in the India basically, and they have shifted, they have created lots of tasks also basically. Now you can't do anything basically. So government tasks are very dangerous. They basically literally do their task because they have to do certain level of task basically at certain level of time, and that time basically are very dangerous. Government's time basically are very dangerous time basically. because CA rules basically they are implemented just now basically in 2024, but it was practically going when basically since 1983 basically. From 1983 basically, I connected to one more topic. 1983 basically team was playing basically, right? But this team basically was created when basically. So CA basically plan basically was not in implemented in and started doing in 1983. It was planned basically long before basically. So that might be some other government whatever basically. That is government's plan basically. We can't interfere in government plan. That is government's plan. But businessmen basically 100% basically might be knowing because they are working with governments. They basically 100% might be knowing that government is like this basically, भाई. Government ऐसा है. Government means few people basically who are working on the order of king's group basically. That is the Maharaja groups basically. That is king family basically you can say. And there are many kings family in India basically. Not India basically, in world basically. And they basically do this type of each king basically of a world basically, each king of country basically, they do their task on different way only basically. They don't basically copy the implementation basically. So one of the person told that the government basically are doing this type of task and they have basically done it. So this account basically also comes into the India account. For example, CAA, it is written Supreme Court. Under Supreme Court basically it might be CAA rules need to apply. Under that basically total expense ongoing since date, that also basically they write. And when what is the plan basically, that also basically they write, because you have to write each and everything basically, each and everything basically, because everything basically connects to the money only basically. Everything basically connects to money only. I purchased this bottle basically from mall basically, right? They have given me, why? Because I have paid the money basically. I have purchased this coat, Marks and Spencer coat. They have given not in free basically, right? They have taken the money basically. So everything connects to money only. So in India account basically, CAA rules was implemented by Supreme Court. CAA rules was implemented in Supreme Court, and the set of people basically who were involved in the CAA basically, they were connected with the high courts first basically, right? High courts of whatever country basically. We can't disclose the country name, but and that's a government issue basically. Government basically are doing up to that level task. So CAA rules implemented, practically implemented. This many people basically used. This many people basically was having these all issues basically, and the issues was basically ongoing from high courts. This basically high court contains this issue of this particular person, this high court basically contains this that basically, so that's why basically the team created basically, then basically it connected to the CA Supreme Court, and then basically the plan started. It's not like that basically everything basically day happened day or night basically, day and night basically, day or night, no, day and night basically. But why basically it has spoken like that basically, that I don't know. Nothing happens in day and night basically. So one other person told that the things are basically like this basically. Governments are like this only basically. Supreme courts are like this only basically. So one other person told that CAA basically is already implemented and practically thing is. So one of the person told that the things basically which is getting practical implementation basically, that basically is ongoing basically, yeah, basically the rules and regulation basically comes at the final stage basically. They just take the decision, that's all. By CA implemented, that's all, signed and done. Then basically, because everything is planned basically, everything is planned basically, the plant has done their implementation done, then basically nothing basically is going to happen basically. The people basically who are doing the plan basically, they only basically do some certain level of activities, that CA basically is closed. And for that basically lots of movie also basically might have created basically. It's not like that basically Bollywood basically are just doing time pass basically. They are also basically tracking each and every activities basically, which is ongoing in the country basically. Because one day basically the group who created the Bollywood, they will ask basically what you have done basically. And they have created the software industry also basically. Few software industry parts basically are created by that group basically, by Bollywood group basically. It's not like that basically the Bollywood is not involved. And in Bollywood basically one more thing, in government sector basically there are many Bollywood group basically people who died and they have taken the post by creating human clones basically. And that is basically we have already discussed. So now basically the topic is, one of the person told that the nuclear power company, the nuclear power company and the energy company, this all basically also basically might be in the India account. This whole thing also basically might be in India account basically. For example, in Vadodara city, around 35 lakh people basically are staying. So they are getting the energy basically from the nuclear power company, energy company and power company. They are sending the data. And this also topic basically I had discussed basically long before basically. And this was basically very long topic basically. There are actually I think 40, 50, 70, 80 videos of this only basically. Of this basically which I had just talked. Nuclear power company and energy company. They are sending the data basically. They know that also basically, that how many software professionals are basically in Vadodara city, because the tax amount is getting deducted na basically, professional tax are getting deducted, tax amount is getting deducted. So according to that basically the address is there, everything basically they have the data basically, because it's connected to the bank only na basically. When you are creating the bank account, salary account, that time basically they are telling that na basically what is your category of role. In that basically you are writing that basically I am a software professional basically. So they basically send according to the software professional role, and they know that basically text box is created from 1,000 cities basically. Text box is created from the 1,000 cities. So this also basically we have discussed in detail basically. So you can just imagine basically the India account basically contains what are the dangerous things basically. So it's very dangerous basically. One of the person wrote that yes, यार basically बड़ा खतरनाक है basically. India account, to create India account basically it's a huge dangerous thing basically. And India account basically is ongoing basically. It's not like that basically it's not going basically. It's ongoing basically. India account is ongoing. India account creation is ongoing basically. India account creation is ongoing basically. And each and every nuclear power company and energy company are handling the each and every people's data also basically, which data they are going to send. And they know that also that this person basically is not working. This person basically is not working. That data also they have. Sometimes basically they tracks basically. Even basically the human resource group can't track अरे भाई ये घर में तो ये एक बेरोजगार है, दे बेसिकली ट्रैक दिस पर्सन इज बेरोजगार, but human resource basically can't track it. So you can just imagine basically the energy and power companies power basically, they basically might have tracked how basically, that is also question basically, how they basically might have tracked basically that this person is not working. So up to that level data basically they have the up to that level serialization data, that is a mapping data basically. For example, software professional basically, so software professional only works in the computer basically, so he might be connected with the computer only basically, and they basically have that computer basically contains this operating system, computer contains this operating system, computer contains this novel loading system, computer contains this all softwares, this all software basically can be used in this level of task doing to create this project basically, this all software are used. So this everything basically the energy company, power company knows. According to that only they pass the data. For example, one person told that Microsoft Group told that uh, Microsoft Group basically sent basically one toolkit basically of the .NET. They told that basically this company basically is going to produce one vegetable basically. So according to that basically they have given the information to power company also, that you pass this type of data to that company because they are going to create one vegetables basically, and this is the product basically which they are going to create. So you can just imagine the chaining system you see basically. This everything basically I have already discussed. So one of the person told that government task very easily, the task is very dangerous task basically. People says that basically government तो क्या करते हैं लोग, but it's very dangerous basically. But they have done actually my task also basically, they have only done basically stopped the income basically. So that also basically they have done. They had tracked and then basically they have done. They track because previously I was getting job basically. Previously I was good earning good money basically. Somebody tracked and then basically they had done the certain level of action. So one of the person told that government task is very dangerous because you can just imagine basically if they can track that this person is unemployed, even human resource group basically can't track, they tracked basically. So you can just imagine basically up to what level basically they are, the government, nuclear power company, energy company and power company all are basically government employees only basically, because private group basically can't create nuclear power plant basically, that is not, they basically nobody will approve it basically, but it's connected with private group only basically. It's a government but connected with few powerful groups basically, they only are into the nuclear energy task only basically. So you can just imagine. So one of the person told that yes, yeah, basically it's not so easy basically to create the India account and to handle the India account. That's why basically the chartered accountant group basically can't do this basically. Chartered accountant group can't do this basically. Why? Because their brain will not support basically. Because they have learned chartered accountant on the base of the books created basically, and the books basically when it was created, that time basically doctor has given the certificate basically that this is the book and it's a range of this book is this much basically, and brain range is this much basically, everything basically they have given basically. If they are not given, then basically they might have done the error basically, but government basically never do the error basically. So they might have created, when they might have created the certification, they might have done the certification also basically, that they have given the certification and the certification basically implemented in India account also basically. Chartered accountant in education, chartered accountant, chartered accountant certification, and certification of the doctors basically. The doctor told that basically this is the range of the brain of these people basically. So if you want to do this type of task, then only basically you this all people. If you are into the creation of India language, sorry, India account, then basically don't use or basically if you want to use, then basically you have to change your syllabus basically. And that basically, that for that basically you chartered accountant group only basically can do that basically. Chartered accountant group only basically can do basically. So that is also basically different topic. So in next video basically we are going to see a little bit more about this topic.